Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
I know you can't help it, but you're going to love it. Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mecky.
On WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com, where it's more than just radio, so jump into the chat room if you can. This is show number 441.
140 and 400. See, that works.
I knew that would work. Right? It's on air, online, and on your smart device, so grab an app to listen anywhere, or if you like or you prefer, listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. You can do that, or your PC or any other streaming platform. It's all good. It's all good to us. But you know what? If you had a little box, Mackie, that just looked like an old-time radio and you could tune in, that would be so much easier. If you're within any of the radii, transmission radius, anywhere across where it's available in your region. If you missed Solaris's show, I did. I was out driving, enjoying a car club day, and I'll send Mecky the pictures of the food. Oh my goodness, Mecky, you'd love it. Solaris had on her show Bentley Craig Meadows, and they were talking about America and politics, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that too, right? Coming across the show. So back to back, these shows and the audience are going to have some continuity there.
Nice.
Yeah, see? And that wasn't even a segue. The archives are currently free, and I think this is the last day that you'll be able to jump in there without having binge. The COVID-19 thing, it's really cool. You can just binge anything you want. Doesn't matter. And you can do the same on Revolution Radio. So jump into the archives, get yourself an account. And actually, I think there is some account details that I should be reading out. But look, find it through the link. Anyway, on the Wet Stations website. Now, Mecky and I, we live in Australia, but it doesn't matter where you are on the planet. There was someone that looked after the land better than we do in America. Mecky, we know even before the native inhabitants, there were pre-native inheritance. Inhabitants. Thank
right.
you. The other one.
Beautiful.
Who looked after the land, and we also have the Nephilim or giants, or the mound builders. There's a whole bunch of people around the planet who did a cracking job, to be honest, and looking after it and maintaining it the way it was always going to be. Pristine. Remember those words? Remember what it means to you? Pristine. It's certainly not the way we've left it. We've carved it up and, forbid this and done that, and now there's whopping great holes and we've drilled the hell out of it, and all for what? Just for money. That's all it is. In the end, we've killed. I think, Mecky, the last time I looked, we've wiped out some crazy percentage of life off the planet. I'm crazy.
Well, we are in the Anthropocene. Some people call it the age of man, specifically.
Yep, that's the people killing things. Yep.
No. Yeah, well, we are now I mean, there's the Paleolithic, and you've got all kinds of scenes, meaning there are all kinds of ages. This age, and it's usually named after what it's defined by.
Yes.
And this age, the Anthropocene, is defined by the human race, more or less. And you're right, Dave. We're witnessing a major extinction event at the moment. We've been living through it.
We're halfway through the train crash.
Halfway, yeah, the carriages are compressing. But if you were born anywhere in the 50s, 60s, then you would have spent your entire life living through this extinction event. And if you think, if it takes decades and decades to do, then it can't really be an extinction event. Can't be that serious. It is, because as far as the age of the Earth is concerned, it's the blink of an eye, and we have. We are now look. It is a large percentage of plants and animal life, and some of them are completely irreplaceable because we've we've now actually destroyed the habitat. To give you just a simple idea,
creature. That's right.
As well as the creature. To give you a simple idea, I mean, this is just one event. I'm talking about one event last year, right? So the Australian bushfires, quite unprecedented, in fact, globally ever, killed, they think, 1 billion creatures, not human beings, but creatures. So kangaroos, possums, etc.,
koalas,
as well as this, as well as koalas, as well as destroying their habitat. So we have not just lost the creatures, but we potentially have lost the ability of those creatures to repopulate because the habitat is gone, and the logging is still ongoing as well. So we are destroying more of their habitat. And look, the argument is. It's really funny, Dave. I have to say this very quickly. Whenever it comes to an argument around common sense or sensibilities or doing the right thing, the economy is always brought up, and it's fair enough. And the economy is important, and we all have to make money, and we all need to live. And that's cool. I get it, right? But it's the pandemic.
Ironically,
right?
at what cost?
Ironically, so should we care about these creatures, these wild creatures? Should we care about these plants? And I'll tell you why we should care. The bark of the birch tree, right? So let's say the birch tree goes extinct. Well, let's just say it does, right? Now, what does it matter to anyone? Well, yeah, it does. I'll tell you why. Because the bark of the birch tree contains the active ingredient in aspirin. Okay, aspirin only works because they put birch bark chemicals in it. I don't know what it is, right? But the point is, without it, you don't know. Rubber. There's a rubber plant. I mean, now rubber is maybe less important than it used to be. Other plants as well. Other plants are very important, and we haven't even scratched the surface, Dave, of plants that could be potentially useful. We brought you a story.
And that's useful for us.
For us, no, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. But there are creatures which survive because of the plant. So only and one really great example, Mickey, that came to mind when you were talking about the birch tree was the moth that has its pattern is the tree bark pattern. Now, there's no other tree that has the tree bark like the one that it liked, and in a coal with a coal mine near it, all of the trees got coal dust on it, and the moth was completely able to be seen by predators. So predation took that and made the moth extinct. It's gone now because it was white, a whitish brown, on a black tree, and it was stood out. But on the non-coal dust affected tree, you couldn't see it at all. Perfect camouflage. So there's so many knock-on effects, Mickey.
Look, the key thing here is to understand that a lot of the plants haven't been catalogued. We don't know what active ingredients could save us. I want to give you a few examples so you understand what I'm talking about, right? So in the Amazon, we're losing forests. All over the world, we're losing forests and plants and animals. Now, some animals are able to regenerate limbs. Some animals are able to hibernate for months and months. Some plants contain active ingredients that could be used in the treatment of cancer and all kinds of diseases, etc., etc. And we haven't even... Yeah, we haven't, and locals know them, they're like local medicine plants, etc. But we haven't really made we have made somewhat of an effort, but really, I think there's a lot more to be discovered. So I believe that for every ailment that the human body has, there's something on this planet that can help treat it or fix it, even, right? But we are destroying our natural ability to do that because we're destroying the very plants that could help us. There's a story we shared with you some time ago around a bird picking up a leaf from a plant and taking that leaf and rubbing it against a sheer rock face. Right now, what the bird then does, it starts pecking at the rock face, and lo and behold, the bird is able to build a nest inside the rock face after it had been treated with that plant. Now, there are other stories around similar plants that can, melt away sort of in an acid way metal, but they don't touch organic compounds. The leather of the boots were completely untouched. Only the metal had been melted away. Some believe that the stone structures in the Americas, the ones that are really perfectly fitted, may have been fitted that way because the rock that was used had been made to putty and then harden again after the effects of the chemicals wore off. I mean, we're doing something similar today, if I may just. So if you go to the dentist and you get a filling, or even some kind of a fluoride treatment or whatever it might be, they give you a blue light. what the blue light does, it instantly sets the filling. Instantly. Like you said, oh, you can't shoot, you can't do this. No, forget it. Done. No, shoot away, knock yourself out. Eat nuts. So that's all new technology, but it's where and we have looked into light frequencies. We are very lucky in Australia. We got a number of excellent magazines. Nexus is a great magazine. New Dawn is a great magazine. Uncensored is a great magazine, and a couple others. I think there's the UFO magazine as well. The name escapes me, but in Australia we have them. You over there in the States probably can't get them for various reasons, or elsewhere in the world. I know in Europe maybe, but they also bring you these supplements, and there was one around light technology used to healing. So light obviously has different frequencies, right? And certain frequencies are more conducive to healing certain things than others. So light therapy is becoming more and more a thing. If you watch Star Trek and things like that, you can see them go with a scanner and they cast different lights to heal things for you. That is not as far-fetched as you think it might be, right? Yeah, look, I enjoy going hunting as much as the next guy. I enjoy being in nature, and I like fishing, believe it or not, when I get the time to do it. But what we need to watch is what we do to nature on an industrial scale. That's the problem, right? Like drift net fishing and deforestation to make toothpicks. I mean, seriously,
net, Mickey, the one that they drag across the bottom. Pulls up everything.
Absolutely, it's just nuts. Now, everything is just scooped up. Now, see, I actually have gone for all my paper needs. I've gone bamboo. All my paper, my tissues, my toilet paper, my kitchen paper, all that is all bamboo, bamboo based. It's all bamboo. It's not paper anymore. Yeah, because bamboo is grass, and it grows like a crazy person. Have you seen bamboo grow after it rains?
Yeah, we even use bamboo nappies.
Yeah, great. Excellent. In fact, it's antibacterial bamboo, believe it or not. Naturally antibacterial. Okay? Look, all I'm saying here, Dave, is we need to be careful with what we're doing here, right? And the like you said, we're now living in the age of man, where man is the single biggest, agent that is affecting the earth.
As causes go, Becky. I've been doing not paleo, but keto. So I can imagine the keto era. It's very funny. All bearded people brewing beer and not eating carbs
and not wearing socks.
I have socks on right now. That's great. Yeah, I do.
Right in, man.
It feels good. Just getting back to the intro, Mecky and I discover where you live, who were the traditional custodians of the land, and try to get some history on them, and email Mecky and I and say hello, or message us through whatever platform, or just put comments at the bottom of the YouTube and tell me about your town. Tell me more about it. I'd love to know, because where I live, it's the Darkinjung people, Mecky.
And for me, it's the Rock people.
And these were the traditional custodians that looked after land before colonization, I suppose, is probably the best way to put it. But they'd been here for a long time, and Mecky and I pay our respects to elders of those communities, past, present, and future as well. And all the things that I just like to add this, Mecky, and just let us all remember that everything we've built will get ground off, basically at the ground level. It'll be sheared off and pushed off into the ocean during any glaciation. And whatever's left and all the things that they'll have to try and find will be off in the ocean, like where we should be looking for any past civilization, which we never do. They always look on the land, Mecky, which would be up in the hills right now compared to where we are. Ridiculous. No one lives there. So, it's been another crazy week. But do you know what? That Julie Nolke, who has the, visiting her past self, it's very funny. And I was showing some friends and trying to get a handle, because it was a great gauge. It was like a bookmark about how we thought at the beginning of the year, Mecky, for that matter. And knowing what we thought then about, the Australian bushfires being a thing. Oh, really? No, your definition of really bad is going to change. You know what I mean? So then the virus came through, and now, you know, Australia had a bushfires, then the floods, and then the virus, pretty much in that order. And, you know, China's not having a great time with the floods. They got the 6th wave coming down. They're emptying out the Three Gorges Dam, and I've had a live feed, Mackie, all week. I've had a live feed watching the Three Gorges Dam and understanding where the numbers are going, and the live feeds all went offline. So there's not one channel that has a current live feed of what's happening, because that 178 meters above the normal river level upstream, I think it's coming. I think it's about round about the Three Gorges Dam now. So there's no international footage available. It's all contained within China, and it's who knows. Don't know, but we have to wait for the CCP to release some details, and so we know what's going on. But I'd like to take this to our first news story, and that's just simply about the virus. Meki.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, he says. Yeah, that's good. So,
Yeah.
the numbers from the John Hopkins, what do you call it? The John Hopkins thing, website. Thank you, Institute. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. It is, let's just call it 25 million. Meki's numbers are usually, these are a day behind anyway. So,
no, it's 25.
Yeah,
It's 25.
So 25 million, give or take, you know, a couple of hundred here from my website. And the global deaths are at 842. Something really interesting, Meki. I had a friend of mine come over, and I explained to my partner and her friend that we need to maintain our position as commentators on the world events, and I said I'll tell you why. Because if you don't like Trump, I don't even care who you are. You can like him, not like him. I don't care. Don't complain about it. Because if you complain, then you have had buy-in, and the buy-in must be that you voted. I said it's a great position to start from. If you're in the US specifically and you don't like him, and you didn't vote, I don't want to hear your voice. Don't care. You didn't take part in democracy, so good luck. But if you voted, and whether or not it was successful or not in getting him in, or attempting to get someone else in that case it was Hillary Clinton, if you were a Clinton supporter and now you've got Trump, I'm sorry, it's just the way it goes in democracy. And there's another one coming up soon. You might want to vote in that too, and see how you can raise your voice and be heard, right? Vote with your feet. It's really important. But to honestly complain, I think I was able to convince the people in the audience that I had, and like our audience, Meki, who's well aware of this, you need to be part of it. Don't be the armchair critic, because being a critic without buy-in is just listen, I'm not going to listen to you. Your voice is worthless, and without any research into something we get this all the time, Meki and I. Without someone doing any research and only reading headlines and not understanding the true basis of the story and where it comes from, and how that person's opinion, if it was an op-ed, if it was an opinion piece, where's the actual detail, how did they derive their opinion, and would you come to the same conclusion if you saw all the same facts? I think that was a really hard conversation to have, especially with my partner and her friend. So I got to audition that, Meki, rather than it simply being off the top of my head during this conversation on air. And I think it's the stance that Meki and I have taken for, what's this, the 10th year? Crazy, right? Yeah. That we've taken that stance as being commentators and rather than critics. I think it's the most important thing you can do, because being a commentator, the situation can change in a flash, right? And you're still on board. It doesn't matter then, because you're not emotionally connected to it. We're emotionally connected to having the truth go out there, but not what it says, right? I think that's really important. And that was something that I learnt really early on. And you can't just go blurting. You can't barge into a room, for instance, right, and just tell everybody about, chemtrails and the moon mission and 9/11, and you can't say aliens are real. It's funny because they all have their own opinion, and because they're not being heard, they'll shut down, and then you don't get a good conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, I get it, because I had a conversation again today around religion, which was very interesting.
Oh, there's another topic.
Well, you can't talk about anything that's interesting anymore, right? I said, look, I don't care. I don't care what you believe, and I don't actually care, what you practice in your own home. I mean, knock yourself out. I really don't care. What I do care about is people telling other people what to do when they don't understand themselves what it is they're saying. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you're a Seventh-day Adventist, or you are maybe you are a Wahhabi Muslim. Yeah. If you understand exactly what your faith entails, or Catholic for that matter, awesome. If you completely understand everything connected to it, and you go out there and you want to be that person and tell people about it, I got no issue with that at all. That's fine. But if you start talking about things that you don't know and don't understand and weren't aware of, then I take issue with that, because you can't talk about something, or even let alone hurt someone over something you don't understand. It's unconscionable. But by the same measure, as we're talking about things like on this show, this is a show where we talk about everything, right? There's no taboo. Sorry, there are a couple of taboo topics for me, which I will never mention, because they're just too horrendous for me to ever bring up on air, and it would put my and Dave's life in jeopardy. So we will never talk about those. That's it. And I'm saying it out here. I'm not
start my car every morning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Is it cowardly? No, it's sensible. And secondly, so that's the first. So there are things, but we talk about anything, and let's talk about aliens. Do aliens exist? You have to be a moron to think they don't. By alien, I'm talking about people that are not this earth, okay, or of this dimension, or whatever you want to call it, right? So creatures, beings, biological entities, potentially, maybe energy beings, I don't know, whatever. But creatures, entities that aren't native to this planet. We have now the Hubble telescope. We've got deep space imaging. We've got radio telescopes. We've got a whole range of things, and there are billions of galaxies that we can see. There are 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. That's 100 billion stars. Do we say that life only exists on one of those planets, that goes around one of those stars? You can. Of course you can say that. As many times
as you want.
Of course you can say
it. What does it say about you?
Yeah. Mathematically speaking, right? Just mathematically speaking, pure statistics, right? It's highly unlikely that that's the case. Even if you just take into consideration panspermia. So let's say life has been on this planet for a billion years, give or take, right? So we're talking about simple bacteria, maybe longer, right? Maybe longer. But maybe that long. Let's say a billion. Okay, and there were bacteria, and we know that meteorites hit the Earth. I mean, craters everywhere. We know this. This is a fact. We see it. The craters, right? So a big rock hit the Earth and spews out a whole bunch of Earth material into the atmosphere and beyond the atmosphere, depending on the power of the blast. Now, some of that material that was blasted off from the Earth, always assuming that Earth is the only planet with life on it, right? In the universe, right? So it was, let's say some gets blasted off outside the atmosphere. Bacteria are extremophiles, especially. They survive in all kinds of conditions. And it makes its way across the stars, right? And in 500 million years, it goes here and there and everywhere, right? So even if Earth was the only place where life had started, by now, life would have spread elsewhere, even without interstellar travel, anything like that, by the simple fact that if something hits the Earth with enough force and enough material is ejected out of the atmosphere, right, to then go ahead and travel elsewhere into the universe, right, that alone, and then this process will repeat and repeat and repeat. I for one will say this here right now, I don't think it started here. I think we were definitely I think panspermia is probably a thing, and we were definitely, I think in my mind, that's how probably life first started here potentially. Maybe not, but maybe it did. Maybe, who knows? But it's definitely a thing. So to even assume that we are the only living creatures in the universe, multiverse maybe, that would be such a. It's like saying the Earth is flat.
Mm-hmm. That's going to get to be you're right.
Or the Earth is the center of the solar system.
That's also silly.
It's the same
you
kind
have
of...
to ignore so much data to maintain that point of view that it makes you in error simply to start the argument. Yeah. I know.
Are they here? I don't know. They could be.
I'd say yes.
In fact, I think we've been sharing this planet.
Time.
And I'll say it again. I believe everybody who lives on the surface is the third world as far as this planet is concerned. Any surface dweller is a slum dweller. Okay, I'm saying it here. And anybody that's on the interior of the Earth, or the Moon, or Mars, or elsewhere, maybe Phobos and Deimos, they are, or Europa for that matter, one of the Jupiter moons, they are the actual civilization, because it makes a lot more sense to be underground. Right. A lot more sense in every possible way. It makes more sense, right? Especially if you're technologically advanced, which I think they are. So interstellar travel is a thing for the inner earthers, right? I know Mackie's talking crazy now. And we here on the surface, why else would anyone want to mutilate our cattle? Why else would anybody be interested in our nuclear launch or even our moon rocket launch sites? And we have sightings there, right? It makes, if I was in another solar system and the Earth had nuclear weapons, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. It only matters to people that are here. If you are 6 light years away, 6 light years, and right now we don't have faster than light technology, right? It would take hundreds of years for a nuclear warhead to deliver its payload in another solar system.
And the threat is no threat.
If I had interstellar... There's no threat. It's like Iraq threatening London. Okay? It wasn't a threat. It was never a threat. It's bullshit.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Right. That's true. So you're right, Mackie, but, has the TikTok... what's it called? Not TikTok, the other one. The Tic Tac UFO, has that changed anyone's minds?
No. That's the thing. It's nobody even knows about it, Dave. Right? I have conversations. What are you talking about, Tic Tac? Yeah, I like
Tic Tacs.
Breath mints. Breath mints.
No, that's not it. The one that the US Navy filmed, and they said they didn't know what it was.
What US Navy? Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So
no one knows.
Just on that alone, it's enough to say, I believe we're sharing the planet. Finally. And now, Mackie, I had one of... I was... my girls... One of my girls is a cub in Cubs, and we went yabby fishing, and that was really cool, to be honest. We released them all back again. But, yabbies are like massive prawns or little tiny baby-looking... lobsters, right? That's what they are. But they're freshwater. And so, you tie a piece of, chicken or something to a string and you throw it in and you slowly pull it out and they'll come out with it, until it gets too shallow, then you get a net and you can grab them up. Nice. But I'm standing there, right? And this little kid next to me goes, look, there's a UFO. And he didn't know what he was talking about and, looking up at the sky. There wasn't anything that I could see. Then the girl on the other side of me says, my dad says that anyone who believes in UFOs is, what was the term? Completely insane, right? Schizophrenic. Is a schizophrenic. And I went, well, good for you. I'm glad this other kid's with me.
No.
And I thought, you're my buddy, man. Good on you, right? What? Yeah. Right? And look, I think that same perspective, I think it's really important to understand where that's coming from. So this is someone who's clearly doesn't want to know it, doesn't look at any of the evidence, never researched it, just sees an occasional story in the news, and it's always laughed about in the media. So I think that's really funny. Because they don't realize that I've seen things that are important in this topic, right? I don't know. And I thought, wow, good on you. Because you know how kids just blurt out the parents' opinions, right? So that's really what happened. And I didn't feel bad for the girl, except for I hope that one day she doesn't simply adopt that opinion, but rather does her own research. That was where I went with it. Funny stuff, Mackie.
Look, but that's where we're at, though. I mean, because what you're doing is you're fundamentally threatening someone's worldview,
right.
And that can be very disconcerting.
The little triangle, Mackie.
And I get it. A lot of people don't like it because the truth is, we are the collective experiences and beliefs that we hold. That's who we are. Okay, everything in your head, all the experience you've had, all the people you know, that's you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if somebody comes along and says, yeah, nah. Okay, what do you mean? Yeah, nah. Now, the thing is this, though. If and this is where, I know it's going to sound terribly elitist. I don't care. Unless you have a mind that can process this kind of information that allows you to incorporate new and, more importantly, completely contradictory things to what you have believed in the past, you will falter. It will crush you. And unfortunately, only a few people can do that.
That's true.
Because most of us, and this is a deliberate effort here as well, I think, Dave, by the powers that be. They have deliberately dumped us down. The educational system is really only geared toward becoming a cog in the system. If you look at it, and you get all the testing, all the normalized, standardized testing, the funny thing is this. So standardized testing was first introduced in schools and universities, meaning that you would be graded on a curve. Now, if you're not familiar with the statistics, the way statistics works, everybody fits, every population, every sample, any question you ask will fit under a normal curve. A normal curve has 68% of the population within two standard deviations of the middle. So 64 or 68% of the population fit pretty close to the curve, right? So that's everybody. And I've got outliers over here, and you've got outliers over there. And now that then the IBM, I think, were the first to translate it to the workplace. In the workplace now, even if you've got a team of superstars, they can't all be superstars because that doesn't fit under the curve. So somebody has to be a superstar and somebody has to be a loser, even if they're a superstar, right? So that's something that you have to do. And the same goes for our kids in school. It makes a complete mockery of individual achievement. It's actually no longer nothing. It's complete. I mean, even if they're all fools, yeah, one had to become a superstar and one has to be a nonce. It's just the way it works. That's the system, right? And we have done away with individual achievements, with people trying to become better than they are by giving everybody prizes. Everybody's just a winner. You know, we've got to coddle our people. No, if you didn't come first, you're not a winner.
That's right.
I'm sorry. It's just it's life. In life, it's like that. But the workplace is not doing it. No. Everybody's graded on a curve. It's complete insanity. I have to do it with my teams. I have to do it. I have to do it. Right? Got to do it. And it makes no sense. It actually makes absolutely no sense. But there are a whole bunch of other scenarios around it and other considerations as well. But the key thing here is to understand that we are living in an era where we are no longer interested in individual brilliance. Not really. I mean, we encourage it in some, right, if we see gifted people. But for the vast majority of the people, unless you're super brilliant and like you're born a genius, you won't get noticed. In fact, they stomp on your head and tell you to shut up. Because we're not interested in that brilliance. We're interested in maintaining the status quo. We want to be able to keep the machine running as long as possible and to be as profitable as possible for the people that are in charge. That's what our laws are for. That's what our society is for. That's what our educational systems are for. That's what our entertainment is for. That's what our food industry is for. They're all geared toward keeping the system running as long as possible, as profitably as possible. Eventually, it'll implode, and everybody is going to suffer, except for the people right at the top, Dave. They're going to be okay. Just in case you're wondering, they're going to be fine.
You're absolutely right. That's crazy. So I've got the standard deviation bell curve, Mackie, and you're right. So there's only three from the center is a fail, pretty much. I know, right?
Yep.
So in the middle, there's two. 34% each, which is 68% in the middle. Absolutely right. And then 13.5% of the rest of the people. And as your curve reduces down, the next standard deviation is the second one, which is 2.35% of the population on one side of the curve, and then the equivalent on the other side. And then you've got 0.15%. Now, if you, like you said, you get a team of heroes, they're all super excellers. you've still got to cut people into that curve, and it's really crazy. I've always found that to be really annoying, but
Makes no sense.
So what you do is you employ those kinds of people to fit the curve, so your heroes can remain heroes.
And you got someone to fire.
That's right. So you do that just for the period of time that you need it for. But it doesn't matter. And look, I remember at school, so the same thing. We had a J curve, Mickey. So it didn't matter where you were. Someone always had to fail.
That's it. Because the system says it is, which is of course complete nonsense. Right. But look, there's a few more things we need to share with you, and these are important. Let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about the impending race war in the States, which by the way, I know, Dave, this is something a point of discussion here on the show as well for us. I think a race war in the United States is a lot more likely than a hot war between America and China at this point. That's my opinion. And the reason I'm saying that, I know, I hear you, but the reason I'm saying that is, if something happens once, that's a coincidence. Happens twice.
Wait, let me just take the audience through this. So, happening once, the poor fellow getting nailed onto his neck, right?
Yeah, that's once. Okay. Second time it happens is happenstance, and the third time is enemy action. Now, we haven't had a third time per se yet. We certainly have. We could say that the third time is now Mr. I think Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Blake. Jacob Blake. Shot 7 times in the back. Now, okay, I'm going to lay out my case for the race war here for you. Donald Trump is a thorn in the side of the establishment. Full stop. He is. Okay, he's not read in. He's a billionaire, yes, but I don't think he's read in. And his presidency has been complete disaster for the power elite, in my opinion, because it's all over the shop. It's hard to make plans. He can't be controlled. He's not part of the establishment, so we have to get rid of him. Trump has to go.
So to elaborate on the term "read in," imagine if he had all of, say, George Bush Sr.'s knowledge, and he was asked to perform an interview at any time on any topic. Is he likely to blurt out something he shouldn't? Would you want him to know everything? Not just having the codes, not just having the briefcase with the codes in it. I'm talking about everything. So how would that go? And not being read in means you've not been explained the entire situation everywhere on every topic. Because you know what? I would imagine George Bush Sr. would have. And Obama, completely.
He wrote the book.
Yeah? Do you agree that Obama would have been read in? Right.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Obama. Look, anybody. Okay, so it's
the anointed ones.
The people that weren't read in were Lincoln. Yeah. Lincoln. I'm going to say JFK. I'm going to say Jimmy Carter. I'm going to say Donald Trump. I don't think any of those guys were read in. That's my over the last couple hundred years. That's my analysis. If you go further back, you probably find others, but definitely those guys that weren't read in.
And that's because they weren't establishment. They weren't the anointed ones. These are ones who were already preened. That's the wrong word. To be president.
Oh no! It's not groomed.
Groomed.
There
you go. So they weren't groomed. They weren't anointed. Just automatically provided the role, and up and away you go. I've seen very similar kinds of things occur within business and within organisation style business, where someone just steps up for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and now they're leading it. But from the outset, that's what it looks like, and they didn't have any particular skill set, except they're just doing exactly the same thing that was going on before. And they're not making any waves.
And their father is buddies with is a golfing buddy with the CEO of the company and things like that.
However, but Trump being the thorn in the side, that's a really great expression, Mickey. I think he's the thorn in the side of the elite, or let's say the people above government, who maybe wanting to, they've got their own plans, right? So the Davos group, for instance, they meet annually and they're deciding whether they can, schedule their next meeting. And the Davos group is influential people from around the world. Typically, Soros is in there, and in the last meeting in January of when was it? January. In 2019, or at the end, near the end of 2019, or beginning of 2020, they're saying, and Soros is on camera saying that he says that Trump will be displaced in November. That's what he says. It's like a directive. It's not a wish or a command. It's a directive. You're going to do this. You're going to displace him. So, Mackie, about the race war.
Yeah, sorry. Let's go to that for a second. Yeah. Now, before I go there, I have to say something else. Now, I that doesn't mean I trust Trump as far as I can throw him. All I'm saying is that, you got a choice here between, two bad things. But there's a good thing here as well, Dave. This is a good thing. Clearly, it is still possible to influence the outcome of something that we thought was completely controlled by the elite. I don't think it is. I think there's some things like elections and such that could still be very much depending on the people. So I think the people still have the power.
Do you think they give it a really good hard go, though?
Do we have any choice?
Like
yeah. Do we have a good choice? I don't think there's a good choice right now in upcoming elections. The candidates aren't there. But the race war. Okay, let's think about the race war for a second. So we know that there are agitators that have been sent to these protests. We know they're trying to hot things up and make things worse and turn protests more violent. We know that for a fact. We know that the Black Lives Movement is now, Black Lives Matter movement is now fairly strong across the United States. A lot of protests, etc. So there's an undercurrent of outrage, and it's fueled by technology. I think it's fueled by technology. I don't think we would have the same kind of reaction, the same kind of protests in a pre-internet, pre-device era. I don't think that it would have been as effective. There have been. Remember the Million Man March in Washington, right. Things like that. They did happen, but there was never something that happened spontaneously across the entire United States, even the entire globe, Dave, the entire globe. Okay, so there's that on the one side. So, but somebody's agitating, somebody's trying to make matters worse. Because you think, any cop out there in the world, right, in America especially, that thinks right now to shoot a man of color, brown, black, red, yellow, I don't care what the color is a good idea, is a moron. And I don't think those cops are out there anymore, right? I think what we're seeing now...
So I believe after the fellow Lloyd, right, was Floyd. Was it Floyd, wasn't it?
Floyd
George.
Yeah. George Floyd.
So I think Floyd, after that occurred, every single cop in the whole of the planet would have been talked to about, they would have broken that down second by second and said what you should have done, how this could be avoided, and what we need to do in the future, and how we should act, and how it should be seen, because this is a thing. It's always, as Julie Nolte says, it's always been bad, but the lid has come off the shaken bottle of soda pop, right? And everything's coming out. So for someone to have been shot now after knowing how bad it is, it's inherent in the system. See the oppression, Mackie. I'm being oppressed.
But this is the third time. I remembered. This is actually the third time. This is enemy action. There was George Floyd. There was a gentleman near Macca's that was shot. Remember that? There was an African American that was shot. He was asleep in his car, and the cops asked him to move, and he was shot dead. Now this one is strike three. We are now in enemy action territory. You can no longer count this off as not just bad luck. No, this is now the third strike. You're out. This is enemy action. Now somebody's trying to incite violence, and the best vehicle for that are these, the protests certainly in Portland, right? The protests now in Wisconsin, right? The protests all over the place. And I believe okay, that this can turn into a shooting war, because there's only so much more people can take, especially if you've got agitators in the crowd that want to encourage that. If you believe that segregation is dead, if you believe that racism is dead, if globally or in America, then you're a fool.
Yeah.
You're a fool, because racism is alive and well. And just because the law says I can now sit in the front of the bus doesn't mean that people want you in the front of the bus. I was watching a new TV show called Lovecraft Country. You know, H.P. Lovecraft, the horror writer? Yeah. And it takes place in the 1950s. It's set in the 1950s or 1960s. And the protagonist is African American, he's black, and he is traveling to see or to look for his father. He's from Chicago. He's going to Chicago, and then from Chicago traveled elsewhere. It's really hard for him to travel around. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term of sundown cities or sundown counties. So what it means is if you were a black person back in those days, and you were traveling through a town which was a sundown town, if you were in that town after sundown, your life was forfeit. Okay, that's just how it was. And it was just, and my wife was watching with me, and she goes, "Oh, is this what really happened?" And I go, "Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, it's not. I mean, it still happens to some extent today. You know, movies like Mississippi Burning and so forth, or Time to Kill, they bring out what actually happened, but it's still happening. Racism is still there. You can twist it any which way you want, and all of a sudden, right? And I realized we haven't really come that far. I mean, the movie is set, or the TV show is set 60 years ago, roughly thereabouts. But we haven't really moved along. We haven't, not really in our mind. I mean, it's not as obvious anymore, but it's still there. More people of color, in Australia as well, die in custody than anybody else. More people of color are incarcerated than anybody else. More people, and I'm of mixed ethnicity as well. I'm of a mixed ethnic background. If I was in the States, I wouldn't be considered white. I can tell you that, especially with my name. And I've lived through that for 20 years of my life in Germany. I was never considered German. Never, never, by anyone. Because I've got green eyes and brown hair, but some husky skin as well, I guess. But I was never considered German by the Germans, not really. Look, that's neither here nor there. My point is, I understand it, and I also understand racism when I see it. I've got this. Everybody who is not of the majority color in a country or race understands this. There's a sense that you have, like a seventh sense or eighth sense, that you feel it, right? People might talk to you a certain way or look at you a certain way. They change their behavior toward you in a certain way as soon as they realize that you're not one of them, right? In my case, as soon as somebody heard my name, I could see a shift in their behavior. Now, if I was black, if my face was giving me away, then I would get that immediately, obviously, right?
So,
interesting.
I just want to say this just for the chat room. Where's the boom? There's meant to be an earth-shattering kaboom. Look, that's not in any way, shape, or form into part of this conversation. You're right, Mickey. This it continues, and I wonder what the next step is. Now, this the protester arrested in a shooting that injured 2 in the demonstration. Once again, Mickey, we've got an SUV, 4-wheel drive, pushing through the crowd like full speed. Through a protest. You've got to be mad. What kind of person would do that to a protest?
The same kind of person that drives a truck into a crowd in Paris, into a crowd in Spain, into a crowd in London. It's the same kind of mindset.
Yeah, like South Africa,
right?
Becky.
It makes no difference. Yeah. Look, it makes no difference which spectrum or which part of the spectrum you belong to, politically, religiously. It's completely irrelevant. If you're an extremist, Christian extremist, Muslim extremist, communist extremist, anything, you will do this because you will find within your self-justification to do this because it's right. It's right. It's the right thing for me to do because I'm right and everybody else is wrong. I'm always weary of people that tell me they've got the answers and the truth. I would never lay claim to that. All I want to find is the truth. Right? Yeah. I don't have it. I'd like to find it eventually. I've got a scratch on the edges of it, like Dave. So we scratch and we see some of it. But as soon as someone cares, I'll tell you what the truth is. Oh, here we go. Okay, run the other way as fast as you can. But this race war is now a reality, in my opinion, because it is getting to the point where I can see people being divided along class, wealth, racial lines. Religion, not so much. It's not really a thing in the States. But I can see it, and we can see the agitators. I'm pretty sure that the KKK and the Knights of the White Order, or whatever they're called, are having a hand in agitation, and the extreme, was it the Black Panthers? Not, maybe it was the Black Panthers. I can't remember. But there's certainly on the other side, the extremists as well that are longing for this kind of confrontation. I mean, we have got the National Guard being deployed.
Yes,
Dave.
I know.
God forbid that we get the actual armed forces in there. I mean, at some point it's possible. I mean, right now you look at Louisiana, completely destroyed by the hurricane there, one of the worst on record, if not the worst on record, right? And 500,000 people without electricity or water. I mean, we can only imagine what kind of strain that will put, additional strain on the country.
If power isn't restored, if power and food is not restored to that area within 7 days, because that's about the length of time, Mekki, it's been out here where I've lived, is 7 days without power. But if you're without power in a civilized area for more than 7 days, it's really bad, right? And that shows remember the what was that, Katrina, Mekki, where all the people that
this is worse.
So remember Katrina with people living in a stadium, and there was feces everywhere. It was awful, right? And all the food supplies weren't shipped in. No one did anything for those people. If we see the same kind of thing going on in Louisiana, I'm going to be put into a position where I have to now go against the governance of, the FEMA. FEMA was set up, Federal Emergency. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to feed the emergency with services and people and effort to fix it. It's meant to be a management agency. They're meant to be managing something. But if they sit around going, oh, look, it's all too hard. Oh, look, there's power out. I don't know. They're all hungry. They're calling out for food. Airdrop food in. Mekki, one of the things that just before we end this, I was thinking about the amount of towns in Australia that don't have any water, that still are in drought. That if we bought those fire-bombing 747s, for instance, they could scoop up, lakes and then bomb them into the catchment areas. We could utilize them during winter and summer. Just, that was an aside, I'm sorry. But look, devastation is terrible. Destroying your population's habitat is awful, but they're not managing the recovery of it within any specific time frame is probably worse than, having to, be in a queue for 2 years to get a bicycle that goes backwards. Right?
Think about it this way, though, Dave. Let's say there are 500,000 people now affected, no power, no water, right? Thereabouts. Imagine this situation, with the virus as well. The situation the already stretched economy, no jobs, recovery effort costing tens of billions, hundreds of billions maybe. America is really stretching at the seams, and some things are just giving. There's a lot of give. I mean, whatever the election outcome is in November, it doesn't matter what the outcome is, it will further divide the country and deepen the rift that exists. Unless you've got a Jesus-like person that's going to be voted in, right? And it's neither Biden nor Trump, by the way. You will have a country that is deeply divided, and none of the protests and none of the unrest and none of the other underlying causes and issues and challenges are going to go away. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And right now, the most likely, this is going to sound crazy, I'm going to tell you, the most likely scenario in my mind, I think it is quite possible that the United States is going to break up. Okay? I think it's quite possible that we're going to see a secession of states that simply feel, okay, federal government is not doing anything for me, I'm going to go my own way. Maybe California, maybe Texas, maybe the Carolinas, I don't know, right? But I can see it. Because they're thinking, hey, we're not getting any help here. Federal is not doing anything for me. Why do I care?
Why do I want to
anymore,
contribute to that?
And maybe, oh, there's the music. Don't go away. Come back.
Well, we'll be talking about physical biological part 4.